Hey everybody, Dr. Anderson here. I started writing an email and then I thought it might be easier for me to just quickly post a video and send along a few really important updates, reminders for you guys in the process of creating your tool design. So you guys should be in that mode. I've spoken to all of you about your frameworks, and through Module 1 and Module 2, we've really hopefully fleshed out what your quantitative tools are going to look like. And for Module 3, I set you guys up in a plan to present your tools, your first drafts of your completed tools, to a small group of peers. I got some information over the last few days that made me wonder if maybe it would be helpful right now for me to inject a little bit of sort of framework, calendar, timeline reality for you guys. I think that there may be a number of you who are kind of falling a little bit behind, who are expressing that you need a little bit more time. And I've always said to you guys that time is something that I can help you with, that I can help you manage. We can make time adjustments. But when it comes down to institutional and research requirements, time is something we don't have as much control over as maybe we would like. And, you know, if you were in a fully full-time graduate program as a doctoral student and you had all the time in the world, you could make almost limitless adjustments to your time frame, right? But because you guys are, many of you, hoping to really maintain progress along the semesters that have been determined by the DELA program, then you are bound by certain kinds of timelines and expectations. And this data tool and the timing of getting this data tool prepared is one of those really critical sort of timeline pieces. And so this video is intended to review that timeline with you, give you some updates and information about that, and also hopefully to encourage you, if you are falling behind, to kind of reorient your focus, to kind of get yourself back on a timeline. So I want to start doing, I just popped over, luckily Dr. Z's office is right next to mine, and I just popped over to talk to her, and she said, you know, one of the things that I often do with my students, and you guys are her advisees, so you maybe have experienced this, is she works you backwards. And so I'm going to use that same approach and remind you that May 10th is when this course ends, right? Seems like a ton of time. There is a countless number of weeks between now and May 10th, right? For teachers, for administrators, the spring is just this wild time. We still have spring break in the middle of all this. I have a whole week to get things ready over spring break. So for some of you, you might be thinking that, like with 703, where you were really self-pacing, that you can just sort of hold some of this work until you have more time. And that makes a lot of sense to me. But I want to inject here that this timeline is not going to work for your data tool development. And here's the reason why. May 10th, this course ends, but you have to get approval by the internal review board no later than April 26th in order for you to really progress appropriately to that May 10th deadline. Once you have your IRB approval on April 26th, that gives you just about 2 weeks to finish writing your chapters. IRB typically takes about a month. Like most of the time people will tell you to wait a month. At some institutions it's longer. At the institution I was at, I was told to plan for 3 months. Luckily it didn't take that long, but you just can't predict, right, how long it's going to take. So here at GU, we recommend for EDD students that you give yourself a month. So if August 26th is your deadline to get that IRB approved, what that means is that by the end of March, you have to have that IRB paperwork completely ready to go. We require in DELA that before you go to IRB, you actually present your tool and you present your full plan to your faculty members. That includes me, Dr. Z, Dr. O'Brien. That has to be done by March 18th. So by March 18th, you have to have your tool, you have to have all your IRB paperwork ready to go, and then very swiftly after that, with whatever feedback we might give you, you'll make those revisions and you will submit it to IRB. right? So now that tool date, we're already backed up to March 18th that you have to have it done, okay? So I'll send you guys this sort of timeline in paper form as well. So what that means is that you have to have your tool completely ready, fully flushed, figured out, really before you go to spring break. And if you look at our modules, we're not just in this course developing a quantitative tool. This course isn't just about you developing your tool, though the hope is that within the context of this course, you'll be able to do that. But you actually need to develop two different kinds of tools, but also an analysis plan, because analysis is a huge part of the tool development itself. It's not just coming up with questions. It is also thinking about, what scales will I use? How will I actually know what different answers mean? What is my plan if I'm going to do short answer questions for how I'm going to analyze those? What kind of qualitative approach am I going to use for analyzing interviews? So it doesn't matter actually whether you're doing a survey, whether you are going to do an interview or something in between or a combination. All of these pieces have to be done in order. So in the development of this course, I really made it a pretty aggressive timeline to get those quantitative tools done really quickly so that you have lots of time to test. You have to have at least 2 weeks to test and revise these tools before you can actually say that they're ready. It's different than creating a survey for, like homecoming participation, which is something that as a high school teacher, I did a ton of surveys, right? This is a really different kind of survey, a really different kind of interview protocol, a really different kind of tool. And so you have to spend time testing, revising, and getting it ready, and ultimately having it ready so that I can review it. The tools are due to me, the quantitative tools are due to me on March 17th. This week is really supposed to be about you guys sharing them with your peers in those groups in Module 3. And then next week, revising and testing with actual people sort of in the field or people who you think can give you feedback outside of your peer group. So if you haven't gotten to the point yet where you are on Module 3 and you are looking at those directions about how you're going to work in small groups to actually give each other feedback on your tools, if you haven't done that yet, you need to do that ASAP. Those groups, I really encourage you to meet and to be sharing those tools over the next 3 to 4 days so that you can have plenty of time to test for next week. For some of you, it weighs heavy on my heart to ask you to do this while you're also working full-time, because I know so many of you are so busy. And so know that this comes with, for me, a sense of sort of regret that some of you may be feeling a lot of stress about putting these together. But looking at the timeline, I worry that if I don't keep you guys kind of held to this timeline, that we're going to get to the end of March and people are going to be panicking, that projects are going to feel incomplete, or you're not going to be proud of the result. And we don't want that, right? And what we most don't want is we do not want anyone to experience harm as a result of a tool that you created that might not have been properly vetted. And we certainly don't want anyone to submit something to IRB and have it rejected, or have IRB put you through a huge grind to get something like put together, revised, figured out in those really stressful months of April building up to May and some of the concluding elements of this semester. So I hope that everybody sort of understands, like, my message is kind of like, now is go time. Now is the time to really sort of buckle down and get that stuff done. If you are trying to do normal life right now, coaching, going out with friends, hanging out, this week might be one of those weeks where you have to put some of that other stuff aside in order to get these priorities accomplished. But also reach out to me if you have questions, and we'll do what we can to support you. I also want to acknowledge that there are some people that I've already met with and are, kind of managing a slightly different timeline for a whole variety of reasons. So if you are one of those people, know that, I'm aware that we have sort of a slightly different plan for your work. But if you are following this sort of kind of typical trajectory, then this is maybe a call to you to make sure that you're keeping up with those modules in this course. This isn't like 703 where you can sort of self-pace. I'm calling on you to like really try to keep pace with me. And if you aren't keeping pace with me, that there needs to be a really significant reason why you're not keeping pace, because the further you fall behind, the more concerned I get about what March and April are going to look like for you. So, okay, hang in there. You can do this. A lot of people have come before you and paved this path, and I believe in you. All of your work is really worthy, and I'm excited to see what you do. Check into Module 3 if you haven't already, and make sure that you are connecting with the people in your small groups that I've assigned you to. And I will be looking forward to hearing from you guys really soon. Okay. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.